Hello and welcome to my little tutorial on the information literacy paper, essentially a research paper, but I've actually changed the title of it from a research paper because it's kind of misleading. Research papers are structured in a way very much like an article that you might find in a journal, professional journal, and what I'm actually asking you to do, and what most people are asking you to do, is to have a question in mind and explore what a particular set of professionals thinks about that. So here's how I want you to conceptualize this particular assignment. You are to come up with an interesting question related to the course. It can be any question that you want. You will work with me or work with your instructor to refine that question to its final form, and then here's essentially the task. You're going to be looking to see what does the field of psychology or what does the field of sociology or what does the field, whatever you're doing this assignment for, what do they think about this? Not interested in what you think about this or even drawing conclusions, because you are a reporter. Think of yourself as you're reporting out what is the field saying about this. Now there is a conclusion part at the end where you can integrate your thoughts about it, but the purpose of this paper is to report what the field says about your particular question. So I'm going to go quickly through the instruction resources that are available, the how you're going to tackle this assignment. This is a semester-long assignment. Getting started on it really early is a good idea. So let's take a look at the instructions that I've given for you. We start off here with the purpose of the assignment, and that is for you to gain some knowledge about using professional resources to get answers to questions. That's why it's an information literacy paper. Next, I list the skills and knowledge. You're going to be able to know the available peer-reviewed resources related to social sciences. You are going to specific applications related to real-world problem solving, use methods of research, develop an appropriate research question for the field of social sciences, locating and reviewing peer-reviewed literature, identifying sources relevant to answering your question, summarizing your findings from those resources, writing an academic paper organized with an introduction, a review of the relevant literature, and a conclusion. 3 major parts to this paper. Formatting an academic paper in accordance to the American Psychological Association APA writing standards, and utilizing feedback received on specific parts of the assignment to improve personal performance. The task is divided into 4 parts. The first part is asking a good question. Second is sources and APA style. And then the optional draft submission. And then, of course, the final submission. As we move right into the instructions here, this is search strategy in terms of not only finding your source, but locating your question. It's good to maybe read in your textbook, find something that's interesting, and develop your own initial question that you might want to explore. Asking a good question means that you need to ask the question in a way where you are going to use the correct terms from the field in order to find the information within the peer-reviewed literature. So, what I offer in this class is there's a quiz on it, the proposal quiz. And in that quiz, you are to propose your question, literally written out as a question in question format. And then the second question is, why are you interested in this topic? I will then grade that as a process of feedback, giving you ways to change that particular question so that your research efforts will be more successful. So I'll be applying my expertise. Your instructor is going to be applying their expertise to help you to get to the best question you can. You complete that quiz over and over until you get a score of 100. But even when you get that score of 100, be sure to go in, because your instructor, I know that I do, usually leaves some links, maybe some ideas as to where you might start looking for information. So it's important to get that feedback for every single graded attempt that you have on that particular quiz. Here's some ideas in terms of focusing, narrowing down the question, and here's all kinds of examples of, here's a topic, you're saying I want to look at the differences between genders in communication, and then I give you a couple examples of how specific it needs to get in order to get just a few articles instead of 10,000 hits or something like that. So that's some examples there. You go to your question, and the ILP Part 1 is a quiz, and there's the questions right there and the explanation about how that works. The next part, Part 2, is getting your sources and applying APA style. This is when you're going to be evaluating information. You're going to be finding good sources, so I'm limiting your sources to peer-reviewed articles only. Want you to get all your information from peer-reviewed articles. Now, reading peer-reviewed articles is challenging. That's why this is a information literacy assignment. I want you to experience reading this accurate scientific literature just like a social scientist does. It's hard for me to read it, I'll admit it, but you want to be able to go through that information, find that highest level source answers for your questions, and it's very likely that because of the nature of peer-reviewed research, you might find more questions than answers. You might find that there's no answer to your particular question, or there's mixed answers to your particular question. That's usually the rule. And so as you're exploring those, please reach out to the library staff to help you ensure that all of your resources are peer-reviewed. There are tools that they have. There's ways in which they can help you to determine that the article that you're looking at is peer-reviewed. Web-based articles are rarely peer-reviewed. Journal articles are always peer-reviewed. So there's going to be a real effort on your part to make sure that all your sources are peer-reviewed. So I go through that process about finding them and different resources and whatnot. And then part 2 of the paper is you write the title page, which is the first page of your final project, and your references. This is the second page. Those are the pieces that get written in APA style. So an APA style title page and an APA list of your resources that in social sciences we call references. Not works cited, not bibliography, just references. And so in the middle, rather than your paper, page 2, as indicated in here, you will briefly describe what you learned at the library orientation or one-on-one session that you did with the librarian and summarize your search strategy. So you not only have to search to find these peer-reviewed articles, you have to actually document the way in which you searched. What terms did you use? What help did you get from the library? How did you bring that all together so you could get these the final set of resources that you're going to use to write your paper. At that point, you start writing your paper, and I have all kinds of information here, kind of a brief version of what you find extensively covered in the APA manual. Go into writing in an academic way, being precise, citing your sources, remaining objective, being critical and analytical, make use of subject-specific language. You're speaking the language of the science. That's how you write in an academic way. Then I talk about formatting the paper, the breathing of the paper. This is how I learned to write, where you start your paper with general information, and then you wind down to the statement of your question. That's the introduction. And then here, you're going to this may be article number 1. You're going to do that. But see, within each one of these areas of the paper, this might be multiple paragraphs, but each area also has that sort of going from a broad to specifics. And then, as we'll see, they get back to that specific and then working out to being broad again within. These are the supporting arguments that are answering your question here. And then, one of my favorite terms, recapitulation of the thesis. You might say the purpose of this paper was to answer the question, and then you state your question again, and then work yourself out to more general conclusions and whatnot. The introduction and the conclusion should be at least a page long each. And then, depending on the complexity of your analysis of the resources, each one of these might be a page, maybe a little less. So the whole paper, we're looking at 5, 6, or 7 pages total. You have the ability to submit a draft of the paper that I will look over but not grade. I'll critique it mostly for formatting, mostly for the way it's laid out. I'll look very cursory look at what you've written to see if it's confusing or if it's clear, and give you some feedback, that initial, not a full grading of it. And then once you get that feedback, if you choose to get that feedback, you have the opportunity to submit your final paper. And that's it. It is a lot of work. It's worth a lot of points in the class, and it's an important aspect of your overall college education in terms of experiencing peer-reviewed literature and increasing your information literacy. So good luck with your project. Please reach out to your instructor if you have any questions, and please reach out to our exceptionally professional library staff to help you with any part of this. They know this assignment, they know the expectations, and they'll be glad to help you. Take care.